everybody!
From the winter wonderland of Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank.
And sitting in for Dan, I'm Mark.
And coming up today, we're going to get into an often ignored little corner of Mormon history. We're going to talk about the Kinderhook Plates. And it was a little 19th century hoax that,
Was it a hoax, or was it
Well, it was a hoax.
divine inspiration? You will let the listener decide when we present the evidence. Yes.
All right. Well, Mark, who should start? This
Whoever.
lovely morning.
I can start because it's a snowy day. I have a story about a snowy place.
Yes, let's hear it.
Let us travel north to Iceland.
Okay.
Discovered by Leif Erikson in 9-something. I can't remember. Have you been to Iceland?
I never have.
I went there a while ago with my husband, and we
jealous. Everybody's been except me, it
we
seems.
found it absolutely amazing and
That's what I hear.
super weird and just cool.
Yeah. But now everybody's been, and I'm ready to go.
And when you're partying like crazy and the sun's up all the time, it starts to get a little confusing.
See, that sounds like fun.
Oh, super fun.
Little confusion.
When you're not sure which 7 o'clock it is. It's
Really?
pretty kooky.
Oh, my God.
It gets out of hand. Anyway, it's a very cool place that has some kind of kooky ideas. I think you guys might have talked about before that a large percentage of Icelanders believe in little people.
Yeah.
To some degree, like it's
Right.
who knows how folk or how seriously they take it, but
Right.
they've built highways around a boulder because
Right.
someone said, "Oh, the little people live in the boulder." So
That's
they go around it.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
charming.
It has a charm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you're going to be crazy, be charming about it. So, well, here is something that's not crazy about our friends in Iceland.
Okay.
A new poll asked young Icelanders if they believed that God created the universe out of nothing. And it's interesting. I wonder if you want to guess what percentage of young Icelanders believe God created the universe out of nothing.
Well, I would guess it's a low number, unless there's like some little people work done.
No, I don't think the little people were
so
polled.
they're talking about God.
Sure, the Abrahamic God.
Okay. All right. Cool. Low. I wouldn't even.
Well,
venture.
it's pretty low. It's 0.0%. So I thought that was amazing.
They didn't even like 0.1% it and hedge
No.
their bets on margin of error or anything. Like they literally had nobody say they believed it.
Of people under 25 who believe God created the universe, with a whopping 93.9% of that age group saying they accepted the Big Bang Theory.
Wow.
I guess that's a separate thing that 0% said God created the universe out of nothing, and 93.9% said they accept the Big Bang Theory.
Then what does the other 6.1%?
Who knows? They drink a lot. It's a very, very drinky country, as we discovered.
Oh, really?
Super, yeah.
Really?
Lots of drinking.
Is that because of the long winter?
Yeah, so they told us, we hung out with these lovely kids that we bumped into at this club, and they invited us to go to this warehouse party. It was just nuts. And they said they drink all winter because it's dark and horrible and they're depressed, and they drink all summer because it's sunny and awesome and warm. And so they just drink. So that was really fun. So yeah, go Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, leading the charge for sanity.
Wow. Yeah. Seriously, because they also like arrested all the bankers, right? After
They did.
Yeah.
The bankers actually paid a penalty for sinking their economy.
Yeah.
So,
Brilliant.
Yeah, good for
Smart.
them.
God,
And they're going to take a bunch of Syrians, too. Iceland has offered.
Where? How?
All they have is space, dude. Like, there's so much
but there's
space
only
there.
like 300,000 of them.
Yeah, it's tiny.
So-
And a lot of them, I can't remember what percentage, but a huge number of Icelanders live outside the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot in the States, a lot in Canada and Scandinavia.
So it just seems like
They're
they
very
could easily
generous.
become outnumbered by
Oh, probably not.
refugees.
I think they were going to take a few thousand, and a woman there started a Kickstarter campaign
try
or
to
some kind of campaign
up the number.
to see if people, and all these people came forward and said,
See,
yeah,
that's lovely.
I have a guest house. You can stay as long as you need. Yes, we have an extra room.
That's beautiful.
They're very kind people. I think living on the margins of life
Yeah.
makes you probably a little more generous.
Huh.
The margins of where people can exist in the world, right?
Right.
They're kind of on that edge.
Huh.
Go
Interesting.
Iceland.
Yay, Iceland.
What have you got, Frank? Something warmer?
Well, I have a strange... It's not really even a story. I mean, there are plenty of stories about it. I want to talk about Powerball. The lottery.
That's a side effect of which drug? Powerball. Because I want to avoid that.
Yeah. No, the Powerball lottery, whatever. The Frenzy. Is it Powerballs?
It should be.
Oh, no.
It's just one?
There's one, because you have the 5 numbers that are not the Powerball.
One ball like Lance Armstrong or Hitler.
The last one that you have to match. Or whatever. I mean, you have to match all of them.
I don't know how it works. Yeah.
Okay, so...
I've never played lottery at all.
They draw 6 numbers total, right? 5 of which can come up in any order, right? That's the first 5. And then you have your Powerball, which there's only one Powerball.
It makes me laugh.
And there's
it has to be the last number.
That has to be the last number.
Oh.
Okay. Has to be.
Wow.
And let me see how much I can remember from the articles that I read about it. There are 26 Powerballs, so 1 to 26, and I think there's 1 to 68 or something like that of all the rest of the numbers.
Okay.
And so what this does, this whole combination of factors, gives you a 1 in 292 million chance of winning.
Sheesh.
One number has that chance of winning. Huh. And so because the numbers are most of the time randomly generated, I think 95% of the time people just let the computer come up with numbers. The people who administer Powerball, they're able to tell.
They're called Powerballers.
What percentage of the permutations have been issued, right? So they know that 95% of the possible combinations, or 80% of the possible combinations, have been purchased up.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. So if nobody wins, then it rolls over, and then all the new ticket and all that money that they're collecting goes into the next one.
Yikes.
And then,
so it kind of has a dynamic increase, right? So as it gets bigger and bigger, then more
just starts to snowball,
right?
Like mad. So last Saturday, it was at 800 million,
right,
and nobody won. And then by Wednesday, it was 1.6 billion, right?
Jesus,
it doubled.
So it could have doubled. Potentially, it could have doubled again
if nobody had won.
Yeah.
But apparently, they know that there are 3 matching tickets.
So how does that work? That they have the first 5 numbers in whatever combination, and they also have
And they also have the Powerball.
Ew.
Yeah. They have all of them. Now, I guess if you get the first 5, but you don't get the Powerball, you can win $1 million or something like that.
Not even worth it.
And there's some other ways that you can win $4 or $7 or whatever it is.
Right.
You match 2 of the numbers or 3 of the numbers. Or those ones I didn't read anything about.
Can you imagine the disappointment? You're sitting there. Does it on television or something?
I think so.
So you get 3 numbers right. Oh my god! Oh my god! And then you win $7.
Yeah.
It's enough to buy 1 bullet to put in your brain.
So, but of course, here in Utah, we don't have such things.
We don't have powerful balls.
We do not.
We do, actually.
We do?
We make lots of babies.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that was super gross.
Anyway, Utah, it's actually in our state constitution. No gambling. Period. That's why there's no bingos. There's nothing.
Our state constitution is kind of 2 sentences, basically, isn't it? No fun, no gambling, no dancing. If you saw Footloose, that's basically it.
We allow booze.
Well, that took a while, though.
Well, no. From the beginning, there was booze.
Well,
and then Prohibition came along, and when that damned amendment rescinding the whole thing, which is a good thing, came along.
It was us.
Utah was the deciding vote.
36 vote.
Saying yes. But it also gave clearly the right to regulate alcohol to the states.
Yes.
And so it's very regulated here.
It's very regulated, but I manage.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah. Somehow we muddle through. Anywho, so I had a friend of a friend who was going up to Wyoming to buy tickets.
Yeah, I'm dying to know where this story's going.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so I bought 5 numbers, right? I gave him $10.
Right.
And I was just like, this will be fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, why not? There's this like frenzy, like it's all over the media.
Yeah.
Why not be a part of the story and just see what it's all about?
What was your Powerball number? Is it two? Are you waiting to tell us that?
Huh?
Your Powerball number?
Oh, I had 5 of them because I bought 5 tickets.
Oh, okay.
So, but anyway, and clearly I didn't win, right? I wasn't one of the 3 winners or whatever. That goes without saying. But what's fascinating...
Frank has an announcement, everyone.
Yeah. Screw all y'all.
He's got $1 billion.
I'm retiring. No. No, clearly did not win. But it was this strange, like it got me into like this, like, because I'd read that like people are, like on Reddit, there'll be like these, big long threads where people are like, oh, it's so stupid. It's like stupidity tax and blah, 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 blah. And then one person will be like, yeah, unless you buy like 1 ticket
and you win
and it's $2. No, not even that. You got $2. And between the time you buy the ticket and you find out that you didn't win, you have a little fantasy time. You sort of, you just kind of,
it's an amusement.
It's entertainment,
yeah.
And so for $2, what I get out of that, I'm not one of these people who dump thousands of dollars, right. into Powerball. But anyway, and so I started thinking about it. I was like, what a strange thing, because like you kind of convince yourself that you have a really good chance of winning once you have that ticket and you're looking at it. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there and I was really wrestling with it because I don't do this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think once when driving through, I can't remember where I bought a lottery ticket. Right. A little scratch ticket. Uh-huh. And it was just like, oh, what's this? What's this? But I knew that it was like, I wasn't going to win that much. Right. There was no chance of winning much. Right. Whereas this is like, what happens if all of a sudden you're handed like this $1 billion check? Right. And so it was fascinating where my mind went.
Your internal experience.
It turned into like this weird, the only thing I could compare it to was this strange faith, right? This strange...
I wondered if that's what this was going to be. Yeah.
Like there was this weird belief that I had a chance. And it was nuts.
Right.
Because I knew the whole time in my rational mind that there was no chance.
Yeah.
Right? It was 1 in 292 million chance that that these numbers were going to win. And I was just like, what the fuck? This is so weird. And so I don't know, like, I don't know where I want to take it beyond that, but like I had a faith experience this week that was really strange.
Brother Frank. You know what it's reminding?
And it was kind of fun.
You know what it's reminding me of is the emotional, like when I was a kid and they would project, not the horrible Johnny Depp version, but the original Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
With Gene Wilder. Uh-huh. And he was so poor and he was just such a good kid. And as a little guy, I identified with him. And, and then he gets that buys that last candy bar or whatever. His dad's got like 50 cents and he gets the fucking golden ticket. And I was just swimming with ecstasy to watch that happen. And it's like, thinking that you're special in a way that the universe is going to kind of single you out for something special is kind of, I think that's it's
intoxicating.
Yeah.
And
it's very human. It's a very human impulse.
And so like, here I am having this strange faith in the whole thing. And there was comfort, there was hope, there was like all these things that I had kind of forgotten about that experience and why it is so alluring and why it is so, because it was seriously analogous to believing in an afterlife, right? The odds are so, you know what I mean? Like
but you didn't change the entire course of your life.
No.
Because you might win $7.
No, but there was hope in a fantasy about this thing that could happen.
Right. But here's where I would say you're right, but you're wrong. Is it did happen? It just didn't happen for you.
No, I know. That's
the lottery's real.
The limit of it. Yeah, I know.
It's probably rigged. It probably is. there's some guy, Steve Jobs is somewhere pressing a button now, but it's real.
It is real.
Right.
It is actually legitimately real.
Crazy to participate. I think it's a bit crazy to participate in, but I don't.
Yeah.
If you don't have a massive gambling habit, I don't think there's any harm.
No, I don't think there's harm. It was seriously just entertainment.
Yeah.
And like, I can't stand like casinos or anything like that. Like, I have no patience for sitting there and putting nickels in a machine and pulling the little lever. Like, I've done it. Friends have lured me out to a night in Wendover. I'm so excited.
There's nothing like a night in Wendover.
But it's awful, and I'm always bored within half hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And so all I do is end up having a bunch of drinks in the bar to get me through the rest of the experience.
All I can see when I go to a casino is America failing so terribly. I just see like all of this. All I can think of is all the backstories of all the people that have led them to this one place to just blow through their Social Security with a springy lanyard that goes into a machine. And I can't see past it because I'm just...
And yet it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, here in Utah, it's not. We're one of the places that there are no Indian casinos or anything like that. But like I go back home to Oklahoma, there's a casino literally down the street from my parents.
Right.
And they're all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with the liberal stance in a way that gambling is kind of a further tax on the poor.
It is.
Because, these people aren't high rollers. No. I went, by the way, somebody took me, I had a friend who's a friend of Steve Wynn's, weirdly enough, and they took us into and maybe this is a public place, I don't think so, but into the high roller slots in like the secret room in the back of the Wynn Casino where I think it's like $10,000 or $20,000 a pull. God damn.
You're kidding me.
There were like 4 slot machines or 5 slot machines and security everywhere. It was very nice back there, by the way. It was really nice. But
who can put $10,000 in a slot machine?
4 people at least, according to the Wynn.
At any given time.
Well, that's very interesting.
It was bizarre. And I would actually love to hear, this is something I would love to hear listeners' response on. Do you play the lottery? Like what? To what end? I think that we probably have a pretty rational set of listeners who are just like, fuck no. Right. But yet, like, why would you? Why do you? Because it's clear that it's a ridiculous crapshoot.
Well, and like what's funny too is with gambling, if there's people out there who are, in the skeptical community who do gamble, I'm sure there are.
Oh, I'm sure.
But with gambling comes so much superstition.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit, like, you can't be here, you can't be here. I know for this is a very racist thing, but it was a thing with gamblers forever that they would run from a Chinese dealer.
Really? I've never heard that.
Because the old gamblers thought Chinese were super lucky and would make you unlucky. And so there's, I did a project years ago that was kind of a gambling-based story. And
no way.
And there were all these crazy tropes in it. And so it'd be interesting to hear from skeptical listeners.
Yeah.
If they do gamble, what their superstitions are, right?
Yeah. Do they still hold on to any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It really got me thinking, which is why I kind of just wanted to bring it up, even though it's not a sit and laugh about, some Pastafarian, which is what's coming up next.
Oh, is that the next thing?
No, actually it's 2 away.
All right. Well, should I jump into something that'll kind of temper the mood a little bit?
Please do. Yeah.
A 21-year-old Irish woman faces life in prison for taking abortion medication. 21-year-old woman from Northern Ireland, whose name is being withheld for legal reasons, has been charged with procuring and using the abortion drugs, I'm going to murder this, mifepristone and misoprostol, and could face life in prison for doing so. She is accused of violating the Offenses Against the Person Act by attempting an abortion with poison and procuring those poisons.
No way.
An Amnesty International press release on the case illustrates how absurd the charges are. The woman faces 2 charges. The first involves unlawfully taking poisonous substances, namely the drugs, God, they make me say this again and again, mifepristone and misoprostol. You shouldn't be able to take a drug you can't pronounce. I just think that's smart. I think that's to terminate the pregnancy. The second charge is supplying or procuring poison, knowing that it would be used to induce a miscarriage. The The medicated abortion pills are internationally regarded as safe and recommended option for terminating a pregnancy in the first trimester. The criminalization of abortion means that women and girls that take these pills without effective medical supervision and therefore potentially resulting in serious health complications. So awful on its face, but what I found kind of fascinating about it is it's Northern Ireland. It's the 6 counties, which is the UK.
Oh.
So
That's
yeah. So it's
Okay.
not Catholic Ireland. It's definitively not Catholic Ireland. So I think abortion is still illegal in almost every, if not every case in the Republic of Ireland. But I wouldn't have thought that they would have such an insane stricture in the north.
Yeah, I think
Which
that
is not
surprising. Okay.
So that's super depressing. It doesn't really say what's going to become of it. I don't know, what hope she has of getting out of this terrible situation.
So there's some black market for these drugs.
Must be, yeah.
And she got caught.
Yeah, must be. There's these, are they the Mercy ships? You know about these?
No.
These kind of amazing and very brave people who have a clinic on a boat, and they go to parts of the world where abortion or any kind of family planning stuff is not available to women. Okay. And they park in international waters.
Ah, they pick them up and
like a mile out. Well, they can't go in, so you have got to get out to it. So I'm imagining there's probably a coordination with charities or brave-ass people in these countries who will take a dinghy and get you out to international waters so you can get these services.
Oh my God.
And so they'll park off the coast of Ireland and parts of Africa, and but it's frightening.
That's
first,
amazing, but how horrifying.
Right, and again, it's this insanity of the quote unquote pro-life, which are really the pro-birth kind of movement. This is a drug that is effective in the first trimester, when this little blastocyst is, not even an embryo yet.
Right.
I mean, this is a cluster of cells that, if you saw on the sidewalk, you couldn't possibly mistake for a human in any form.
Right.
Right. So, so we'll see. I hope it works out, and she isn't thrown in the keep for the rest of her life at 21.
Trying not to ruin her life.
Yeah. Yeah. She's ruined her life.
Yeah.
Come on, Ireland.
Yeah. That's awful.
Yeah.
Well, strangely enough, my next story ties into that.
Oh.
Planned Parenthood. We've talked about Planned Parenthood. We have been following this whole saga with those stupid videos that misrepresented, some conversations that were being had inside of a Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
The people who went in to film them, of course, misrepresented who they were. And
then heavily edited.
And then, like Psycho edited it. So Planned Parenthood is suing the activists. They, on the grounds of, so here's a quote from Dawn Leguins. I have no idea how to say that last name.
Probably a fake name.
She's the executive vice president of Planned Parenthood. And she says, the people behind this fraud lied and broke the law in order to spread malicious lies about Planned Parenthood. This lawsuit exposes the elaborate illegal conspiracy designed to block women's access to safe and legal abortion. The people that went in, they made these recordings without consent of the people who they were filming.
Yeah, they were secret.
Hidden camera operation. They registered false identities with state agencies. Can't imagine that is going to bode well for them.
No.
And then they also violated the non-disclosure agreements. And they intentionally went out to damage the reputation of Planned Parenthood. And, you can't really do that.
So are they suing for defamation? Is that the charge?
I believe so.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Let's see. Where were the civil lawsuit? It seeks compensation and punitive damages as well as legal fees. They're not quite sure how much money they're going to be seeking. They don't have a dollar amount at this point. But they anticipate that they'll also be adding in. They'll be seeking to recuperate the extra money that they had to spend after the videos were released to pump up security at Planned Parenthood clinics.
Yeah, there's been all these attacks, all this vandalism.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always under a threat,
right?
But it's really ramped
really
up after this stupidity.
Yeah. So David Deliden, and thank you, weird last names. He's the founder of the Center for Medical Progress. That's the name of the organization that made the videos.
What? That's the name of their organization?
Yeah.
Instead of just lying shitbags.
And his
Limited.
His email response to the journalist who wrote this story, he says, "My response is game on. I look forward to deposing all the CEOs, medical directors, and their co-conspirators who participated in Planned Parenthood's illegal baby body parts racket."
It is not illegal.
Well, it would be if they were actually selling them, which they did not do. Some body parts are transferred off to medical researchers.
Yes.
And there is what was it called? A reimbursement of fees.
Right. It's a handling. It's like somebody that there is a job. Look, you fucking awful, hateful pieces of ignorant shit. Yeah. There's a lot of things that happen in hospitals, and there's a lot of things that happen in saving people's lives and in finding ways to save other people's lives that aren't pretty.
Right.
And if that is what we're going to base our medical science and our understanding on, ew, I don't like that. Well, fuck you. Give back everything medical science ever gave you. Give back everything organ harvesting and things that are not pleasant, and vaccine trials and drug trials. All the things that gave you, give back.
Yeah.
Right? Fuck you otherwise. Right. Because do you know what all that research goes to? Do you know what they use? I mean, it's crazy what comes out of that.
Yeah.
The cure for diabetes is around the corner with this kind of medical science.
Right. Type 1. Type 2ers are out of luck. They just don't have anything for them.
Well, so don't get type 2.
The babies haven't yielded...
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
Are you gambling again? So I find it so fucking infuriating. And it's the same bunch of dickbags that the James O'Keefe, that horrible little troll, he went after Shirley Sherrod, who was the Undersecretary of Agriculture, and they destroyed this woman because they edited what she was saying about racism.
Right.
And what she was saying is she overcame her racism after her grandfather was killed by the KKK.
Right.
So it was a story of triumph over racism. They turned it into, I'm a racist, destroyed this woman, intentionally lying.
Right.
They did the same thing with Acorn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was something that fucking helped people in desperate situations. They're trying to do the same thing with Planned Parenthood. Yeah. It's a disgrace. And
well, I am just glad to hear that Planned Parenthood is suing them.
Absolutely.
Because they get to take over the narrative for a minute during their response, Yeah. And so, kudos to Planned Parenthood. I'm
good
so
for
glad
them.
that they're striking back in this way. So the best of luck to them.
Yeah, absolutely best of luck.
And so far, I mean, I don't know about all over the country or anything, but like here in Utah, our governor's attempt to defund Planned Parenthood has failed in the courts.
Yeah, well, it's probably because he locked himself out of his car or something. Couldn't get to the defunding meeting in time. Our governor is named Herbert, and that's the only name Herbert has. So
he's not the brightest.
Yeah, his security guides him away from revolving doors because they know he just gets stuck. Just be a Jerry Lewis act. Poor dumb thing. Well, go Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on. And it's not just for women. And if there's any young people out there,
that's a point that always needs to be made.
Women and men, you know, young men for any kind of contraception or if you're worried about STDs, and they can also help you with your Powerball.
Oh,
that's the whole reason I went down that. You thought I was being a good guy. Go get your Powerballs checked out.
All right.
Well, I have a fun. I have a fun.
Do you? Good.
I do.
We need a.
There's a guy named Dave Bratt, who, for reasons the universe will never understand, is in the United States House of Representatives from the state of Virginia. And he's the guy that actually beat Eric Cantor in his primary because he was a Tea Party cuckoo.
Right.
He's mad. He's mad at President Obama.
Really?
I know. What in the world?
Shock.
What in the world did he do to you?
He became president.
He became president, and we won't go down the race rabbit hole here, but the story is Republicans can't seem to figure out just how Christian President Obama should be.
Okay.
When he doesn't talk about his faith, they call him un-American or a secret Muslim, or as they usually spell on their signs, Muslin. When he does, as he did when he was talking about the need for Syrian refugees coming into the country, he's going too far. Representative Dave Bratt, our idiot, better known as the guy who dethroned Eric Cantor in the Republican primary on the talk show of Sandy Rios, said that Obama had no right using Christian imagery. Quote, the president is using Christian tradition and he's trying to bring about compassion by bonking Republicans over the head with the Bible. It's almost a comedy routine on what compassion and love is. He's mocking his enemies in order to compel a larger federal state using the tradition of love. Those were words in a sentence. If anybody knows what the fuck he's talking about, please let me know. Continues. Our side, the conservative side, needs to re-educate its people that we own the entire Christian tradition.
Oh, my God.
Yes. Fuck, I wish you did.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Christianity would go away real quick.
Oh, mean President Obama being a Christian when he's not supposed to be.
One of those...
Talk about locking your fucking keys in your car. What a dummy. Do you want to come be the governor of Utah, Dave Bratt? Because we could use your intellect here. Anyway, I just thought that was so great. It's like they're just so out of dog whistles. They've said everything but the N-word.
Right.
So they just kind of keep putting words back in a box and shaking it up.
Yeah. It is remarkable. I mean, the man cannot do anything without getting some just ridiculous
and it's
criticism.
So
the most positive, universally accepted, like, positive thing, such as, I don't know if you watched the State of the Union.
Oh, I did. Yes.
But, like, he's talking about, like, how, you know, we need to, like, or we have, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about, like, veteran services.
Yes.
We've improved veteran services.
Yeah.
And it's just nothing from the Republicans.
I watched Paul Ryan sit behind him and glare.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, you can't cheer him for that?
Nope. It's amazing.
That's something that is a universal good.
Yeah.
Right? That is a good thing. We send young men and women around the world doing, whether you agree with it or not, they're out there working for this government, and the least we could do is take care of them when they come back and their brains are all fucked up.
Right. They're hurt.
You know? Or they're missing body parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to take care of these people.
And
right?
Paul Ryan just sat behind him glaring at the back of that black head. My country changed and I don't like it. Just this fucking 7-year tantrum that is going into its 8th year.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily there's a couple times we can laugh about it, like with this moron Dave Bratt.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time it's just exhausting.
It is.
It's like
it's hard to pay attention.
And the potential, you know, I can criticize plenty about Obama and I'm happy to do it. But the potential after the chimpanzee that was the president before him.
Yeah.
The potential this man had to do something great for the country.
Yeah.
He tried like crazy, and it's just been so squandered by these assholes and racists that could not handle that their privilege was slightly adjusted.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very disappointing.
It is.
Go away. What you got?
All right. This is the last one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you feel about the Pastafarians? Do you like the Pastafarians?
I like their cuisine. I know. I love that. I actually adore any kind of merry prankster like that. I adore the Pastafarians.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been touched by his noodly appendage, and I hope you have as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic... well, it started off as just this wonderful just thing with the Kansas school district, right? The flying spaghetti monster. Or the Kansas State School Board or whatever.
Is that where the flying spaghetti monster
I'm pretty sure it came out of Kansas, right? Like
all good
people
things.
were trying, so Kansas was trying to get like religion taught in the schools again.
Straight out of Kansas.
And so these people are like, well, equal time. If that's what you're saying,
right.
You got to give us equal time because we're legit too.
Right.
And so they organized the whole thing, and the thing just spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been very
fucking
fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that one of the little protesty things that people have done around the world, and it's brilliant, is forcing your local DMV or whoever it is that issues your driver license in wherever you live, forcing them to allow you to take your driver license photo with a colander on your head. Right?
Yeah,
and they say that this is their
religious freedom.
This is their religious freedom. This is
and you know what? It fucking
do.
is. It is their fucking religious freedom.
They've joined this church.
Yes.
Right? And this is their headwear is a colander. Right? And so around the world, local DMVs have yielded to this request, including a former porn star here in Utah who she forced the DMV to let
Wait.
You've never heard this one?
Wait, before we get to the colander, who's the former porn star in
I
Utah?
don't remember her name, but she lives like down in St. George.
What?
And she forced the driver license guide or the office down there to let her take her photo with the colander on her head.
Well, at least she was wearing something.
Yeah, right.
Did she do? That'd be great if she did her porn shoots with a colander on her head.
I don't know. But anyway,
safe sex.
So here is the case of Andrei Filin, a Russian.
Oh boy,
who has decided to take on the state traffic inspectorate in Moscow.
I don't even think I'd fuck with the traffic cops and like the guy behind the desk in any Russian institution.
So he marches in to the driver's license folks, and says, "This is what I need to wear." And he actually he's got a cute one. He's got a knitted colander.
Well, it's cold,
right? So it's just like it's a hat, but then it has the little knitted on handles, and it looks like a colander. So that's what he goes in and says that this is what he wears. And he claims that, yes, the Orthodox Pastafarians usually do wear the metal version. Right?
He's Reform?
He's more of a Reform Pastafarian. But anyway, so they allow him to do it, right? Like there he is. He's holding up his little driver's license photo. But with a twist.
Yeah.
Which is
that Putin gets to boil him alive.
No. They say that if he is ever pulled over
without the hat,
he will lose his driver's license.
Well, you got to commit to the bit, right? Like you got to commit.
It's just I love it that they're like, okay, you. Yes.
All right, Dimitri.
We will let you.
We play a long game with you. You know, I've been to Russia in the wintertime, and I wish I had a knit colander to curl up inside. It is colder than the dark side of Pluto.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I imagine he'll be able to keep that on 11 months of the year and then just stroll around without it when it's above freezing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Wow, good for him.
Yeah.
That's commitment. And what do you say? Like, I hope you're touched by his noodly appendage. What's the thing? It's a blessing.
Remember.
Whatever. You Pastafarians know what I'm talking about. Sorry. I don't mean to be a racist.
Peace be upon him.
Is that it?
I don't know.
Oh, that's good, though.
Yeah,
That's sweet. Little primavera. Awesome.
All right. Well, that's that. If you'd like to get in touch with us and complain about anything that we've talked about, although if you like us, send us those too.
Please.
You can email us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com, or you can leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. And also, while on Facebook, you can search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge. It is a private group, so you have to request to join it. Dan's sort of the main guy who lets people in. It will take a minute to get let in. We get your emails saying nobody's let me in yet. It's a long list, and Dan goes through and he vets everybody.
He actually snoops quite a bit. It takes a while.
He gets a sense of like whether you are who you purport.
You know that dark spot in the trees outside your bedroom window? Dan's standing in that at night, just observing, just watching.
Yes, it's not creepy. He's just confirming whether or not you're an atheist. That's all. That's all.
Just don't look him in the eye.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. This is Pat Robertson. He has some advice for a sexual abuse survivor.
Oh, my God. Can we just skip this? I know it's going to be so terrible.
This first one is from Jonathan, Pat, who says, I got involved with hookers the day I turned 18 because my mother sexually assaulted me when I was younger. My father was not at fault for this because he was at work providing for his family during the abuse. Should I call the police and have my mother charged now that I can speak up, or do I turn the other cheek? In case you're wondering, my father's now dead, but I never had the courage to tell him what happened to me until I was in my late 20s.
Jonathan, I think the thing to do is let that thing rest. Good grief. Your mother assaulted you? Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe. You know,
well,
exactly.
It happens. It happens, yeah.
Well, it's so rare, but in any event, she's your mother. And I mean, you've got to love her. I'd pray that she might find the Lord, and then God will forgive her for that, and you should forgive her too. But are you going to charge her and ask her to be put in jail? Now that you're in your late 20s, of course not.
Did that really happen?
I feel so fucking dirty. I'm sorry I'm being super sweary today, aren't I? I'm like...
You're fine. You're fine. I just have to hit the explicit tag.
That's... God.
Whenever...
Sorry. Whenever... Just, I'm coming on the show. But,
yeah, we always hit the explicit tag.
That was so creepy. What was weird is the person writing in... just kind of like, don't worry, it wasn't my dad's fault. Don't worry, my dad's dead. It's like, well, what is that? Doesn't that seem strange to you?
Well, I mean, this guy's looking for permission to hold his mother accountable.
Well, unfortunately, I can help him out with that right now, that the statute of limitations on this shit is crazy short in most states.
Really?
Crazy short, yeah.
For sexual abuse?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. It's crazy. I think it's something. I think it's 5 to 6 years in a lot of cases, and I think
it's one of the worst things you could do to someone.
Well, it definitely alters the course of a life,
yeah.
And so that's why the Catholics have gotten away with it in so many cases, is because the statute. By the time a person is ready to kind of deal with it, they're usually in their late 20s.
That's so
right, or later. So it's too late. You could have DNA proof that it happened, and you can't even give the guy a parking ticket.
I don't know about that. I don't like that.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that because I understand the need for, statute of limitations on stuff. But, like, come on.
Well, and there's also, in the 80s, I don't know if you remember, there was this mass hysteria about Satanists and and sorry, people raping children, and there was kind of a lot of false memories were being planted, and kids were being coaxed into this because of some crazy religious hysteria.
Right.
So it is important to establish as best you can the truth of the charge.
Sure.
But you would think the statute of limitations would take into account the frailty of young people and their journey in life and how it's going to take them a while to be able to deal with it, especially if, in my opinion, religion has taught you to be ashamed of yourself and your sexuality through your young life. You see yourself as the perpetrator oftentimes.
Well, and I mean...
Or the guilty party, I mean.
Standing up to whatever authority as well. I mean, that takes it takes maturity. You know, that takes... You got to grow up. You have to sort. You have to figure it out and realize, oh, shit, that's just some dude. Or that's some, you know...
That he's not God's representative on earth. He's just a sick man. Or, you know, if this story... Which there's something weird about...
There is something weird about
this one with Pat Robertson, but you know, certainly if it's a parent, that's a major mindfuck.
I'm not going to do what Pat did, which is doubt the legitimacy.
I am. No, really? I don't think Pat doubted legitimacy. He just said, get over it.
No, right at the beginning, did you see the look on his face? And he's like, your mom didn't do that.
I think that's just his face.
No, it took his little
He
co-host.
looks like one of those things you carve out of an apple and then it kind of goes and it turns into a little doll. Apple person, right?
What?
An apple. Did you ever see those?
What?
Yeah, people used to carve an apple with a face, and it kind of goes and shrinks up like a really old person.
Okay.
And then they put a little burlap outfit on it.
What is this?
Is it just me?
No, I don't know this.
Maybe this is a false memory that's been planted. I don't know what the statute of limitations
in your
on
neighborhood.
Statute of limitations on craft is. Craft crimes.
You did grow up in Utah, so that
I did.
I'm not.
I swear to God,
all the funny little things that happened in,
I'm going
in
to
Utah.
goddamn look it up
because my childhood was.
But Pat looks like an apple person. I think it's just his face. Anyway,
he looks like.
But what he was saying is, it's true. Just get over it. That's your mother.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good advice. I think the right advice is, okay, first, I think
some
you should go
help.
see a therapist and talk it through and figure out what your next steps are going to be.
Apple people.
That is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. What?
Yeah, I wish I could show you guys through the microphone, but just Google dried apple people. And you'll see Pat Robertson is one of the first hits.
It was really big in your ward. All the.
It was big in my ward, and corn husk dolls. I don't know what.
I remember corn husk dolls.
Yeah, I guess I come from pioneer times. I don't know. I'm not that old.
We would get some of the Utah stuff out in the mission field, but not all of it. Clearly,
I bet you had your own weird shit down to Oklahoma.
Yeah, my grandfather would make like little whistles out of tree branches and stuff. Like he would pull the bark off. He'd moisten it and pull the bark off and then carve the inside and put it back in. And he'd make a little whistle. He was a handy little Okie.
For the apple people to dance to. Doot, 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 doot. Bark music. What were we talking about?
Emails.
Okay.
I mean, we weren't, but that's where we should go. Let's see. I want to start with this one. Dan is generally in charge of picking the emails. I figured he's not around, so I'm going to break one of his cardinal rules, which is avoiding the fanboy emails.
Why can't we feel good about ourselves?
I don't know.
Why aren't we allowed?
Dan doesn't let us feel good about ourselves.
I like to feel pretty.
Dan likes to make us all feel bad.
I think he thinks that's where great art comes from.
This is the misery.
Despair.
No, I don't know what his thinking is on that. I don't think he likes to make it look like
we're tooting our own horn.
Praising ourselves and that kind of stuff. But there were some nice emails this week that I think warrant having a little read on the show.
Let's indulge ourselves.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Dear Frank and Dan, recently I have discovered your podcast. I love how humorous you two are, and I have quite a laugh listening to your show. Oh. In response to your last episode, Mormon Militias, I would like to say that yes, Ohio is an open carry state, but you can't carry a gun without a license. So he goes on and on. Growing up in Ohio's God country is hell, if such a place was real. I'm constantly submitted to the blubbering of assholes who refuse to not look at me like I'm hellspawn. Everywhere I go, there is a God is good, read Bible, and not be sent to hell type signs. I don't like it, but am I going to complain? Nope, I respect people. They can live the way those choose, but I can still hate it. All right. Anyway, he says, I kind of wanted to read that just to establish. He says he's 16 years old. He'd love to donate to the show, but he's 16 years old. It's fine. You don't have to donate to the show.
Don't donate to the show. Donate to yourself. Yeah. Do something for yourself.
Put the money in savings, get yourself to school, all that kind of crap. But as an atheist, my parents are semi-accepting of me. They're like, all right, it's what you believe. Yet the next minute, I feel like they're saying you are an embarrassment. I want so much to break from this. I hate this place, and I hate my life. But I live for the day, well, basically when he can get out of there. And he says he wants to meet us and blah, blah, blah. And then he puts a barrage of emojis like I have never seen before. I think iPhone would blow up.
Let's see.
If that came in
on
a text message.
Wow.
But I wanted to read that because we do get emails like this. A lot of kids who are in. He doesn't ask a question, but
he's reaching out.
Yeah, and it's just a couple years away, and you can get the hell out of there.
Are we knowing it's a he? I just see an atheist who likes emojis.
Oh, could be a she.
I don't know who it is, but whoever you are.
I figured by the language that this person was using that
it's very coarse.
Couldn't possibly be a young lady.
A young lady of any class.
Yeah, it does not identify.
Well, whoever you are.
And the email address doesn't give any sense of name or anything.
Say young atheist who likes emojis.
A young atheist.
Good for you on many, many fronts. I think that if you listen to... There was an episode, the first episode I did with you, Frank, I think. And young atheist, this is Mark. The first episode I did with you, you kind of asked me about my background. And I talked about insane loneliness and feeling like I was the only person who either was fully crazy or wasn't fully crazy.
Yeah.
That changed day by day. And this sense of isolation I had as a nascent non-believer. And I think I'm so happy that things like the online community exists and podcasting exists because you have a community that can kind of get past the censor. Like if your parents or your community don't want you to have access to certain information or media or whatever, you have a way to get to it. And so I'm super happy for you that you have this sense of community. And, what sucks about being young is you don't have a huge amount of control over your life yet. But rather than spending a lot of time in despair, I would say the time you would spend despairing at your situation in the world around you, make a plan. Spend that time, get used to planning how you're going to make your exit from what is making you so unhappy. And you're gonna move out of small town Ohio or wherever you are, and you're going to find a different life, and you're going to find your tribe, and it's going to be great. Yeah. But thanks for reaching out, because you're communicating with us just like we communicate with you when we do the podcast. Yeah, absolutely. All right, here's an email from someone who doesn't want his name mentioned. Dear Frank and Dan, as you can probably imagine, I'm not exactly part of a large group of like-minded individuals, geographically or demographically speaking. I listen to a lot of atheist podcasts. It's like therapy for me. I get to listen to conversations that almost no one I know is having. Well, my experience was probably quite different from someone that has both churched and apostated in Utah. I feel like I get more from your show than most because of our similar religious backgrounds. Where did he say that? I guess he doesn't say that. Okay. My wife, who is religiously ambiguous, but definitely not atheist, got curious and started asking me what I was listening to when we would go to bed. I felt like your show was the perfect introduction to the world of atheist podcasts. I figured TGIA is like playful, non-threatening, heavy petting compared to some of the other shows that would require a safe word and a shower afterward.
Now when she asks if it's you guys, she will have me remove the earbuds so she can listen along with me. You have evoked several giggling fits from her. I can't begin to tell you how stoked I am about sharing this part of my life with her. I'm not blowing smoke. Oh, wait, I'm not going to read that part. Because it is effusive praise.
Oh, come on, a little bit. Just a little bit.
He says, I'm not blowing smoke when I say that you guys possess real talent, and if this whole atheism thing ever gets respectable enough that we are more trusted than pedophile priests, you guys are ready for prime time.
Oh.
It's bullshit that Steve Harvey is making millions. And you guys aren't household names. That's really sweet. Thank you very much. Let's see. Thank you, Frank, Dan and Frank, for blah, blah, blah.
What a beautiful day that will be when we are more trusted than pedophile priests.
Yeah.
Where's our parade?
I know.
That's so cool.
We need a parade.
Super cool.
Atheists on parade.
I'm so glad that your wife listens to the show.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Hopefully we can be a gateway into...
Yeah, slightly scarier.
You know, your Hitchens or just something down the road a bit. But if not, just enjoy the ride while it lasts.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let's see. No. I'm just going to skip that one. We're running a little short on time. Hey, Frank and Dan. I hope I'm not too late to join in on the afterlife discussion from a couple weeks ago. I wanted to point out that while Dan is absolutely correct that no one would really be stupid enough to end up in outer darkness, that's the Mormon hell, I guess. The Mormons do have leaders in their history who have become rabidly anti-Mormon after holding very high offices in the church, and thus most likely qualify for outer darkness. Yeah, that's probably true. Let's see. Also, while the Mormons claim not to believe in hell, outer darkness has been described as hell 2.0, or as I like to call it, passive-aggressive go sit in the corner hell. It's basically designed to suck just as much, but absolve God of the guilt of torturing people eternally. Anyway, thanks for the great content, and you guys keep it up. And that's from Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Hi, Nate. Thank you.
Yeah, outer darkness has always been a little weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of hell-ish.
Yeah, well...
And you can come back. Isn't there a way back? No, you can't come back.
Outer darkness is forever. You're cut off from the light of Christ.
Oh, shit.
And so it's just dark and drab and dreary.
Is it quiet, though? Because
probably really peaceful.
I need to get some rest.
There definitely aren't all the Mormons clattering about, which would be heaven for me.
Listen, hell for me would be...
If the Mormons were right.
Dude, it would be an eternal sacrament meeting. It would be a Mormon Sunday forever. Hell for me would be a Mormon Sunday, period.
Yeah.
You guys time served.
Fast and testimony.
Well,
Sunday.
At least F&T, people went off script.
Entertainment, but now that they have their little glove with the 5 points that you're supposed to make.
What?
Have you not seen this? So the kids now get a glove, and one of them is like, I believe in Jesus, I believe in Joseph Smith, I believe in the Book of Mormon, I love my mom and dad, I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. I don't know what the 5 are, but that's the standard child, thing.
That's so crazy.
But that's all they're supposed to talk about. And so they're taught now from being really young that these are the only things you're supposed to talk about, in the hopes that 30 years from now, Sister Smith
will wrap it up.
Or Sister Christie won't get up there and
talk about the 3 Nephites.
Talk about how her screen door was having some troubles, and her home teachers came over and they fixed it. And I'm just so happy that we live in such a loving community.
Regardless,
and it's just
hell.
Although those kind women, crazy women, usually did bring some entertainment. My sister and I would usually sit there and be like, okay, is she getting up? Is she going to get up?
Oh, yeah.
Sunday? Is she actually going to get up?
Yeah.
And
there was an old guy in my ward that was very deaf. He had a hearing problem.
Uh-huh.
So his voice was very atonal. He was very old, and he would scream into the microphone and about the craziest stuff. And we would kind of taunt. We'd walk very close to him with the microphones, like, come on, Brother G, come on. Yeah.
Oh, because you had the deacons with the microphone.
Yeah, that was
thing?
me. Yeah.
We didn't do that in any of my wards.
Oh yeah.
You had to go up. All right, I think that's it for emails.
All right.
Because like I alluded to a moment ago, my time is running out, sadly. So
Do you get hate mail? Do you ever get like hate mail?
We get what's the right way to say it? People who write in generally say, something along the lines of, I just want to start by saying I love your show. And
So
I'm a big
critiques.
fan,
They give you critiques. Yeah.
but you guys really fucked up on this one. Right?
Well, sometimes we do.
And then we get like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 pages of content explaining how we fucked up. And you know what? Please keep sending those because they do give us something to think about.
Yeah.
If they're too dialed in on one little point that we just like brushed over, we usually don't read them.
Yeah.
But if we feel like, we did fuck up, we read them and address it. So,
All right.
Yeah. All right, Kinderhook. The
Yes.
Kinderhook plates.
Dateline, Kinderhook, Illinois, 1843.
This I have to say, somehow this one had really passed by me.
I'm shocked.
I really don't know how that happened once I started once I heard it. You know how sometimes though it takes you like hearing something 3 times before you go, wait, what was that? Because the name Kinderhook plates, I'd heard that.
Yeah.
I'd heard mention of them, but I didn't quite know the story.
Well, when you grow up Mormon and then you've grown away from it and you just want to get away, you hear all these names and all these words and you're like, oh, who gives a shit? Like, who cares about Adamon Diamond and who cares about thing and the thing?
I've mostly been there for the entire run of this podcast, to be honest. No, I'm dead serious.
Just today, or are you talking about?
No. The whole 4 or 5 years, however long it is that we've been doing it now. I was already kind of like really tired of Mormonism, because I left the church in the late 90s and
it wears you down to a nub.
And I had this weird thing where I had some friends who had moved out of state and they're like, you got to just come on, you got to get out of there, And because I don't have family here. I have nothing tying me to Utah. And I was like, you know what? I think if I moved to X place that's awesome, I would never work through what I feel like I need to work through.
Ew.
Keeping me here keeps me sort of near it, keeps me sort of figuring out what this really awful thing in my past.
Near the scene of the crime.
Yeah, what it was.
That's fascinating.
And that wore off by probably 2008-ish.
Oh, so
yeah.
nearly 10 years.
Yeah. But I got a kick-ass job that I was really excited about right about the same time, ended up staying longer.
You put down roots.
And I've really established some serious roots in Utah. And so, and then when Dan and I started this, I was just like, Jesus Christ, do we have to talk about Mormon shit?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we have to because that's our experience.
I had a similar, because I never wanted to be part of it, but I had no choice. As soon as I got out, I was like, blah, and just shook it off. And I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And if I talked about it, it was just going to be in the most excoriating possible terms. I had a lot,
Anger.
still crazy amount of anger.
Yeah.
And I still have some. If you've listened to any of the beginning of this podcast, clearly you can tell I have issues that I'm dealing with. Thank you, emoji kid. But then what's funny is I started to become interested again. I never was interested when I was in.
Yeah.
But then I started to really become interested. I read No Man Knows My History, which is amazing, and started to become interested in, whoa, this is crazier than it. Nobody ever told me it was crazy and awesome in this really fucked up way. This magical worldview and seer stones and treasure digging and interplanetary travel and all this shit that is so. I know why they don't teach that in church.
But it would be so much more interesting.
So much more interesting. You'd be like, okay, well, I'm headed for the door, but this has been a great discussion. You know what I mean? Instead of just the hypnotic banality of church.
I think they could get away with it in church, but they wouldn't get any new members. Because that's the whole thing. The church is so watered down.
Right.
I think so that they can lure more people in.
Right. From this crazy fantasy space that it was under Joseph Smith. So you want to talk about the Kinderhook plates?
So the Kinderhook plates.
Yeah.
Little backstory for those of you who aren't super up on your Mormon history. That's fine. You don't have to be.
You're about to be.
So Joseph Smith, in the 1820s, brought forth the Book of Mormon, right? Yeah. It was an angel had directed him to the brass or the gold plates,
which were weirdly just behind his family's farm.
Convenient.
Yeah.
Well, the Lord set this whole thing up, right? Like, of course it was nearby.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. And so anyway, he goes, he gets the plates, he translates it, gives out the Book of Mormon, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's key important information as to why the Kinderhook plates would be so alluring to Joseph Smith 20 years on.
Right.
Right. Some Mormons were not good neighbors. Right.
No.
They generally pissed off anybody in the community around them because they were such a they were so culty.
They were so culty, and they arrived kind of without warning.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your sleepy little holler in Ohio had 10,000 new residents that wanted shit to do with you.
Yeah.
And, were sucking up all the resources in the land, and they wouldn't do business with you. They only do business with each other. And
now they wielded political power because they outnumbered you.
You kind of had this unasked for Jerusalem appear, across your property line. And it was pretty frightening and weird to people who were also probably quite ignorant rural people.
Right.
Who weren't ready for that.
Right. And so some neighbors of the Mormons decided they were going to catch Joseph Smith in... they were going to expose Joseph Smith.
Well, did it start as an exposure, or did it start as a money-making scheme?
Well, I guess there are conflicting theories, right? Because, the stuff that I was reading, it seemed to me that they were setting the Joseph Smith up by... I'm sure there was probably a profit motive, now that you bring that up.
A profit motive. That's funny.
That's really... I'm sorry.
Sure.
But... So anyway, let's just go through the story.
Yeah.
Let's take out that part of it.
Okay.
So the Kinderhook plates were a set of sort of bell-shaped metal plates.
They must look like axe heads. They're kind of funny.
Yeah. That's probably a better way of describing them. With a little hole on the non-sharp end of the axe, where a ring went through, and so they kind of you could flip through them, I guess, right? The 6 small bell-shaped pieces of brass with strange engravings is how they're described on Wikipedia. So this Robert Wiley guy, he's the grand schemer behind the whole thing. He starts to claim it's him, right? Started claiming about having dreams.
Yeah, Robert or Bridge Whitten and Robert Wiley.
Yeah. And anyway, so they start this dig, right?
in an Indian mound.
Yeah, in an Indian mound. So you're going to find some stuff.
Right.
Near Kinderhook, Illinois. That's where the name Kinderhook comes from. And they plant down in this hole that they've dug. These fake plates that they've manufactured.
Right.
And so either with the intent to try to sell them to the Mormons and make some money.
Right.
But I think that they always would have been like, ha, ha, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. Yeah. When Joseph Smith comes out with this translation that came from God, this was not an intent to pull the rug out from underneath.
Well, it certainly could have been, because he was not beloved. So this would have been where he was not beloved of the non-faithful. So where this would have been was Nauvoo, where Joseph Smith would have been at this time, which was intent to be by this bend in the river, it was going to be the New Jerusalem.
Right.
And they'd been chased out of a couple prior to this, but this was it. This was where they were staying. On the Mississippi River. They were finally staying here.
Yeah.
He had raised an army at this time,
right?
The Nauvoo Legion, which was a pretty serious army,
right?
Many, many thousands of men under arms. So the locals were pretty freaked,
right?
And this may be the same time, or close to the same time, he's running for president, which was also kind of a crazy story.
Yeah.
So,
while basically committing treason, he's also running for president, right?
And marrying 14-year-old girls.
Yeah.
Another show. Anyway, so Kinderhook is fairly close.
Uh-huh.
They knew from Joseph Smith's history that he was much beloved of digging in the earth and coming up with great treasures.
Mm-hmm.
They also knew, for just the novices, when Joseph Smith allegedly pulled the golden plates out from behind his house, they were in an ancient Middle Eastern language that he was able to translate.
Right.
The stories changed over time, but with putting a rock in a hat is the new theory, is the new official policy. So he put a rock in a hat, looked at it, and a divine light allowed him to read it.
Right.
Hang in there. And so he'd been duped before this with a greater embarrassment called the Book of Abraham,
right?
Which we can divert to if you want in a minute. So these guys knew that if you brought something mysterious and subterranean,
right,
and metal to Joseph Smith, like he was the guy in America. If you were going to sell this thing,
right,
he was the guy you're going to sell it to,
right.
It was well known that was his shtick.
Okay,
so they brought this thing to him. He, of course, was like, "Oh yes, this is of great ancient origin." So he takes this thing and says it is. It was written by a descendant of Ham.
Right.
And if you remember your Old Testament, Ham was the son of Noah who laughed at his drunk-ass naked dad passed out.
Right.
And that's where black people come from. It's true. Look it up. So this was some testament of a descendant of Ham,
right,
through the loins of Pharaoh, because he needed two massively important Bible personages to legitimize this thing, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember reading what it says. I don't know if he ever wrote down what he claimed it said. Do you know? Like
no.
he did with the Book of Abraham.
No. He didn't actually. I don't think anybody has ever claimed that they had a translation that he had started. What this is based on, he does say, and this was it from the history of the church. Although there is some dubiousness as to whether this actually came from Smith, it's more likely that his secretary wrote this down and then it later got turned into a first-person account because it's almost verbatim from the journal. But that doesn't matter. Like, his personal secretary wrote down something basically identical to this, which says, "I have translated a portion of the plates and find they contain a history of the person with whom they were found. He was a descendant of Ham, blah, 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 blah." In the journal, it says he says he has translated a portion, right?
Why a portion? It's only 6 pages. It's only 8 pages.
But I mean, he would have turned that into something amazing, right?
Of course, that's what he did. He would have turned that into another grisly run-on sentence, like all the others he ever wrote.
Anywho, what's interesting is that the fact, like, it's so fascinating. I actually read an article printed in the Ensign back in 1982, I think. Or
that was the golden 81. Age of the Ensign. Those were good
August
ones.
81 is when this came out. Kinderhook plates brought to Joseph Smith appear to be a 19th century hoax. And so this is the church's, like, final, like, stance on this thing, because they had gone, they had sort of accepted it on some level.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Joseph Smith said it was.
Yeah. And so when, back in later on, how many years afterward? Like in the 1900s, one of them turns up.
Right. And somebody did some research on it.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that?
Anywho, it ends up going through some basic inconclusive
It was in 1980.
1980s when
So that's a year before that
Yeah.
was written. So 1980.
So in 1980, they actually do some pretty intensive, like
a metallurgist at the Northwestern University.
Scanning electron microscope, and they're like looking at, the grooves that are in this. Was this engraved?
And he said it was the metallurgy and the technique in founding it was consistent with a 19th century blacksmith shop.
Right.
And traces of nitrogen were in it.
Right.
From the nitric acid that it was assumed were used to etch the goofy little boogers in it that don't look like language at all.
Which, that's not how it would have been done in antiquity.
No.
It would have been engraved, and the grooves would have been different. There would have been metal pushed into the other strokes, and so forth and so on.
Right.
And this actually corroborated the story of the hoaxers themselves.
Yeah.
Who later the story comes out and they say, well, yeah, I mean, this is how we did it, and it was always a hoax, and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And they mentioned using some sort of acid in order to cut out the images and all that kind of stuff.
And how they had used iron, particularly, they'd wrapped it up in this iron thing to cause it
to age. And
to kind of fake age it and rust it up.
Yeah. And so anywho, so this ends up corroborating that. And the church, I'm sure, was just like, shit.
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Yeah.
And so they come out with this whole thing, and they put their best apologist on it, apparently.
It was probably Hugh Nibley, does it say?
No, it's Stanley B. Kimball, who was actually a college professor in Illinois. But he was Mormon.
I'll be damned. All the way back in Illinois.
Yeah, something like that. And he, anywho, so he goes through the whole thing, and he has all these things. He basically, so there's the one thing that is the most damning is this entry in Joseph Smith's private secretary's journal that says that basically the thing that I just read, that he had started the translation, and this is the story, it's Ham, it's this, and blah, 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 came through the court of Pharaoh. And he's like, well, this statement here is in the first person, and this statement over here is from the secretary. And he turns it into this whole thing.
This he said, she said kind of?
No, it's kind of like, well, we know that the prophet never said this, right? Because the only thing that we have written down is from this secretary, which is, that's not necessarily reliable, is what this historian is saying. And it's like, but then, like, you go through the whole thing, and he's using people's, third person account of something as
testimony.
Yeah.
As actual testimony.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
listen,
this guy said, the prophet said this.
Joseph Smith, to people that believed he was who he claimed to be, he was in daily contact with Jesus the Christ and God the Father.
Yeah.
You don't write down something he didn't say and say that he said it.
If you're his private secretary.
Right.
Right.
You believe that you believe this is a living God.
Your job is to get it right.
Right.
Right. Like, if you're like housewife number 4 down the street, right? You might get something wrong in your journal.
Yeah.
Right. Although journals, I think the whole thing, we would need a historian to correct me on this, but I think they generally accept journal entries as being pretty reliable if it's within like a certain amount of time of the event.
They can be entered into evidence in a court of law under certain circumstances. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, now, like, accounts of people seeing, this is totally off on a different tangent, but like Brigham Young's face turning into Joseph Smith's face when he's taking authority of the church, that doesn't show up until like 20 years after
in a journal.
Right.
It's the only place that ever appeared.
Right. Exactly.
And there were a lot of people in that congregation.
And then all of a sudden everybody starts remembering that.
I was told that as a gospel truth. When I was
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now those kind of accounts, not reliable, but when it's the day of, or a couple days after, I think that people generally...
Especially by a person in the employ whose job it is to record these circumstances. It's bananas to think...
So it's nuts the church is trying to say, no. So this is not really...
And for those of people who haven't been paying attention to recent Mormon history, the church is in a massive crisis right now where it is trying to figure out how to undo a lot of this history as it's appearing... And it's very embarrassing to them because they've tried to whitewash out the magical worldview, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But this goes to... Smith was vulnerable to this kind of stuff because this is the problem of the prophet business. Once you become a prophet and you are one degree of you're not even 1 degree of separation away from God the Father and Jesus the Christ, you have to keep profiting. You have to. So there's a great story where they were traveling west and they came across a hill and there was an Indian altar. There was an old stone altar of some kind. So his guys ask him, the faithful ask the prophet, well, what is this?
Right.
He can't say, I don't know.
Because he's the prophet.
Because he knows everything.
Right.
He's got a direct line to the guy who made everything.
Right.
So he's got to come up with something. So he's like, oh, this is Adam on Diamond. So they're in Independence, godforsaken Mosquito, Missouri.
Right.
And he says, oh, this is Adam on Diamond. This is the altar that that Adam sacrificed animals to God on. It's like, Adam? This is the Garden of Eden. It couldn't just be, it's an altar.
It's a pile of rocks.
It's a pile of rocks? I don't know what it is.
That have been there for 6,000 years.
Right.
Okay.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
So once you're in that business, anytime a guy comes to you with a bunch of scribblings on some metal stuff or some Egyptian hieroglyphs, you can't say you don't know. So the web of lies just becomes this inescapable silly string of stupidity.
But why can't you say, no, that's nothing important. Don't worry about it.
He couldn't. You know what I mean?
Why not? Like that's what any rational person would do.
He could have said yes.
Point.
Oh, it was a minor.
This is some Indian thing.
It's like when
this is nothing that's tied into
when
us.
he bought Egyptology was very popular in the 19th century, right? People were discovering mummies in Egypt, and they would take them on tour in the States, and some guy sold him a real papyri from an Egyptian tomb.
Right.
And he couldn't just say, oh, no, some priest from Egypt and a thing.
Right.
He said, oh, this was written by the hand of Abraham.
Right.
Abraham of the Bible, the father of all the great religions.
Right.
So... Of course, he didn't know that at the time he was saying that the Rosetta Stone was in the possession of, I don't know if it was the British Museum or the French or Napoleon had it, but it was being broken.
Right.
So his undoing was about, one of his undoings with the Book of Abraham was in progress while he was, quote unquote, translating it.
That's amazing.
So he was in the prophet business, and it's a tricky, tricky business. I don't recommend it to young listeners. Do something else. Plastics. So the Kinderhook plate. And if I have a second, I'll just say for those of you that are interested in all of these subject matters, and I can't believe Frank hasn't read this yet.
I'm sorry, guys.
Jeremy Runnels' Letter to a CES Director is an incredible and easily digestible compilation of a lot of these problems. That is a fascinating read, and then you can read further if you like. But that is a great thing to start that journey.
Yeah.
Frank's going to read it.
I know I am going to read it. I don't know. Like we were just talking about, I lost interest for a long time.
Yeah. And you don't need convincing.
Yeah, I'm done.
Right.
It's nice to have a little reminder every once in a while of like why it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm fine without it. So no, nobody had talked it up to me like you did earlier. So I'm totally going to check it out. Yeah,
check it out. It's all over the internets.
And then you probably won't get me or Dan to shut up about it after.
I thought, my heart was out of the church at age 10. I thought I'd known, and I'm in my 40s, that I knew everything there was to know about why it was all a bunch of cockamamie crap. The CES letter, I was like, what? That too? Yeah, it's amazing. It's well worth a read.
Well, like you said earlier, it's all in one place, and it just kind of creates one big giant case, right? From the sound of it.
And written by a faithful Mormon on his way out, but asking the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of that conversation.
Yeah.
Kinderhook Plates. Check it out. Google it. If you'd like to join in on the conversation at any time, you can email us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com or leave us a voicemail. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Look us up on Facebook. It's facebook.com/TGIAtheist. And while on Facebook, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. Closed group, though. You're going to have to wait. Thanks to Mackenzie for all the help on Facebook. And thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club for still letting us use their music.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks, of course, to Mark.
Thank you, Frank.
You filled in last week for me and this week for Dan.
I do what I can.
And I think next week you'll be back. Is that
I don't know.
True?
I usually find out the day before. The first time Dan's like, what are you doing right now?
I know that I'm unavailable next week. I don't know what Dan's plan is.
All right. I'd love to sit here and try to fill in for your fill your beautiful shoes.
Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.